Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to revise the urinary bladder and prostate gland. As you know, these are the two important essay questions. So what you have to learn about these two structures. So urinary bladder can study under the following headings. So first we should see external features. So it includes the presenting parts, various borders, surfaces, whatever the, and the relations. So any organ or viscera, you can study the relations under two subheadings. So the relations are either structural or peritoneal. So whatever peritoneal relations and structural relations as per these structures, means surfaces and borders. So relations we have to write in detail. Then internal features. So in case of urinary bladder, the interior is some present some specific features. So what is that important feature in the internal aspect of the bladder? We'll see detail. Then blood supply, nerve supply, and the development. Then the second, prostate gland. It is also an essay question. So they will give you a question by giving subheadings. So what are those subheadings? The external features. Again, it includes presenting parts, relations, and different parts. And coverings. So surgically also important. So what are the coverings of the prostate gland? We'll see. The blood supply, nerve supply, development. In addition, the prostate gland is important surgically and clinically. So we should know how the prostate gland again divides into various important subsections. So nothing but lobes. So what are the different lobes and what are the zones? So as per the malignancy and the importance of the glands, means the glands arrange in prostate differently. So accordingly, the interior of the gland is further divided into zones. Okay. So now coming to the urinary bladder. So what is the location of the urinary bladder? So in case of empty bladder, so where it is present? Actually in adults, it is a what type of organ? It is pelvic organ. In means in case of the empty bladder, in adults, what is the location of the urinary bladder? It is completely pelvic. Whereas in children above 6 years, so it is almost abdominal pelvic organ even in empty. So what is the location of the urinary bladder in adults? So now we are discussing the adult urinary bladder. So coming to the location, it lies immediately behind the pubic symphysis. So behind the pubic symphysis means retropubic, and it is present in the pelvis. So where the neck of the urinary bladder. So this is the constriction. So that neck of the urinary bladder exactly lies at the level of the lower border of the symphysis pubis in case of adults. If you compare the neck position in children, it lies at the level of the upper border of the symphysis pubis. Okay, so at the puberty, means at the age of, means after puberty only, the neck of the urinary bladder reaches the adult position. So what is the adult position? Exactly it occupies at the level of lower border of the pubic symphysis. And the shape relations vary according to the amount of urine it contains. So if it is distended, the relations and coverings also different. But in empty bladder, means in a contracted bladder, what is the shape of the urinary bladder? It is tetrahedral in shape. Whereas in distension, it becomes ovoid or spherical. But in a contracted, means almost empty bladder, it gives a tetrahedral in shape. Then, so this is about the location. Now coming to the presenting parts. What are the parts of the urinary bladder? So you should write everything, each and everything. So now we are discussing the contracted bladder, means empty bladder. So what is the shape? Tetrahedral. Almost a wedge shape. So for a wedge, what are the two different parts? Apex and base. So here, the apex of the urinary bladder is forwards, means in front, and it lies behind the pubic symphysis. So the apex lies forward, means that right opposite to the apex must be the base. So base is back. So base is behind, apex is in front. And the other apex of the wedge shape, it lies below. That represents the neck of the or constricted part of the or lowest part of the urinary bladder that lies at the level of the lower border of symphysis pubis. Okay. So these parts are first coming to the apex. So here the apex is connected to the umbilicus by means of a ligament. So this ligament is a remnant, so derived from the urachus. So it represents the means developed from the allantois. So it is representing the remnant. So what is that remnant? In the form of ligament, which is known as median umbilical ligament. So what is the extent of the ligament? It extends from the apex. So apex of the urinary bladder is connected to the umbilicus by means of this median umbilical ligament. Then what is the base? So base is otherwise called posterior surface. In the next slide we'll see. So what are the parts? Apex, then base. Then what are the surfaces? So the surfaces are superior surface, is almost triangular in shape. So this is a superior surface, and this surface is covered by peritoneum, and rest of the surfaces are non-peritoneal. So what type of organ urinary bladder is? Subperitoneal organ. So subperitoneal means below, sub means beyond, below. So which surface of the urinary bladder is covered by peritoneum? Here the entire superior surface. And in case of males, only the upper part of the posterior surface, otherwise called base, is covered by peritoneum. And rest all the surfaces, means all the areas of the urinary bladder is non-peritoneal. Then what are the other surfaces? Two inferolateral surfaces. Here you see this is the lateral view. The point is showing the lateral view of the urinary bladder, contracted bladder. So what is the surface? Is inferolateral surface. Now a border, sharp border you can identify here between the superior surface and inferolateral surface. So that is the lateral border. So how many borders? Lateral borders? Two lateral borders here, separating the superior surface from two inferolateral surfaces. See, it is also roughly triangular in shape, inferolateral surface, and it is convex. Then base, otherwise called posterior surface. So this inferolateral surface is related with a space, which is known as space of Retius. Here you identify the lower section. You take a section, the level of the fundus. So you can identify between this, see anteriorly this is a pubic symphysis, right? Then this is a body of the pubis. Okay, this is a body of the pubis. And this is in obturator internus muscle covered by a fascia, obturator fascia. So between them means among these boundaries. What are the boundaries? In front, pubic symphysis, then body of the pubis. Laterally, the obturator internus covered by its fascia, obturator fascia. So, and this is the inferolateral surface of the urinary bladder. Inferolateral surface of the urinary bladder. So, among these boundaries, this is a space. So, it is occupied by, it is a space occupied by the fat. So, this fat is known as retropubic fat. So, it is actually a potential space. This is a space occupied by fatty tissue. And what is the importance of this space? This is otherwise called space of Retzius. It is surgically also important. So during surgery of the prostate or urinary bladder, they will approach through this space. So space of Retzius is surgically important. And what is the other importance? The space is occupied by venous plexus. So what are those venous plexus? The veins which are draining the prostate gland. And the vein draining the penis, deep dorsal vein. So the deep dorsal vein also passing through this space. And these veins are forming a plexus which are known as prostatic venous plexus. And further these prostatic venous plexus accompany the vesical venous plexus. So all these venous plexus finally drains into the internal iliac vein by means of the inferior vesical veins and partly by the superior vesicle. Okay, so mostly these veins are drains into internal iliac vein. Then few veins passing backwards and passing through the sacral foramina enters the paravertebral veins, which are known as Baxen's plexus. So within the vertebral column, either side, what happens within vertebral column? Paravertebral venous plexus are there. So some veins may communicate with the paravertebral venous plexus. So this route explains in prostatic malignancy. So why there is vertebral deposition of this malignancy. So this is the only route. What is that route? These vesical plexus or prostatic plexus passing through the sacral foramina communicate with the Baxen's plexus. Okay. So this phase of ledges is very, very important. Maybe a 2 marks question. So you have to explain what is this phase, what is the surgical importance, then boundaries of this phase. Then surfaces of the urinary bladder. So what are those surfaces? Superior surface. Here you identify this is superior surface. So the entire superior surface is covered by peritoneum. Okay. And after covering this superior surface, anteriorly it extends onto the anterior abdominal wall, whereas laterally it extends onto the lateral pelvic wall. Here you identify laterally it extends onto the lateral pelvic wall. Anteriorly it extends onto the anterior abdominal wall. So behind, if you see, the peritoneum reflects from the rectum onto the urinary bladder in case of males. Whereas in females, if you compare, see from the peritoneum reflects from the rectum onto the uterus. Okay, so what is this extension? Recto-uterine pouch. See, from the rectum onto the uterus. So recto-uterine pouch. Then it covers the uterus, then extends onto the anterior surface. From the anterior surface, it extends onto the superior surface of the urinary bladder. So, what is this reflection between the urinary bladder and the uterus? Rectovesical pouch. This is the rectovesical, and behind the uterus is recto-uterine pouch. Whereas in males, if you compare, this peritoneum reflects from the rectum onto the only the posterior. See in this picture, you identify this is the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. So it extends. In case of males, if you identify this picture, it extends onto the upper part of the posterior surface, otherwise called base. What is that? Upper part of the base of the urinary bladder. The peritoneum reflects first. Then it extends on to the superior surface. So that's why, what is the main difference in relation to the peritoneum? So the upper part of the posterior surface also is peritoneal in case of males. But in females, only the superior surface is peritoneal. Rest everything part is the non-peritoneal. Okay, so that is about the superior surface of the urinary bladder. Then posterior surface. Here identify this is the posterior surface. So roughly it is triangular in shape and it is occupied by the. So what are the relations? If you identify this picture, what are the relations on the posterior surface of the urinary bladder? See in the upper part, you can see this is a rectum. In the lower part, there is a fascia which is separating the urinary bladder from that of rectum. And not only urinary bladder, the prostate also. So what is the fascia here? This is the rectovesical fascia. Thickening is there. So this area is formed by a fascia. It represents the primitive rectovesical pouch. This is a fold of peritoneum. It is a primitive rectovesical pouch. So it is obliterated, and in the place of this obliterated part, what is this fascia is represented here now? That is the fascia of Denon Belia. So here we can identify the pelvic fascia covering the, see in the pelvis all the viscera are covered by pelvic fascia. So which part of the pelvic fascia? Visceral layer. So that visceral layer is covering the viscera, then extends on to the pelvic walls as a parietal layer. So whatever visceral layer of the pelvic fascia surrounding this part, means posterior surface of the urinary bladder, blends with this, again visceral layer over the rectum. So where it blends to form the fascia of the Dannon biliary. Okay, so this is a fascia of Dannon biliary. Then in case of females, what are the relations? In case of females, what are the relations on the posterior surface? So it is related with the vagina and part of the uterus. Then lateral relations. What are the lateral relations? This is a obturator internus muscle, and below it is supported by the levator ani muscle. So here the levator ani supporting the prostate gland. That's why this part is known as, means anteriormost part of the levator ani is known as levator prostate. Then ligaments. So what are the ligaments are supporting the urinary bladder? Otherwise called, here we can consider these relations are structural reports, and the false ligaments are representing the peritoneal folds. So what are these ligaments? True ligaments and false ligaments. Now coming to the what is meant by true ligament. So the true ligament is the fibrous band. So from where the fibrous tissue is derived? The visceral layer of the pelvic fascia. It is condensed and it has some amount of smooth muscle. That means what indicates the muscle of the, means the outermost muscle layer of the urinary bladder, it extends along these fibrous bands and getting attached to the surrounding structures. Thereby it gives a support to the urinary bladder. So that's why these ligaments are known as true ligaments. Okay. So what are these true ligaments? Altogether 9 in number. One is median umbilical. So except this median umbilical ligament, rest are the condensation of the pelvic fascia. But this median umbilical ligament is a developmental, because this is a ligament represents the remnant of the uterus. Okay. So median ligament, umbilical ligament extends from the apex to the umbilicus. Whereas 4 puboprostatic ligaments. So what are these puboprostatic ligaments? 4 means either side 2. So 2 on each side means altogether 4 ligaments. And all these 4 ligaments are anteriorly extended. So from where they are extended? From the level of the neck of the urinary bladder to the body of the pubic bone. So what are these ligaments? Medial and lateral puboprostatic ligaments. Whereas in case of female, from the pubis to the urinary bladder neck as a pubovesical ligaments. So in case of female, they are the pubovesical ligaments. Whereas in males, they are the puboprostatic ligaments. So how many altogether? 4, 2 on each side. Medial and lateral puboprostatic ligaments. Then a pair of lateral ligaments. See here, pair of lateral ligaments which extends from the neck and adjacent infrolateral surface of the urinary bladder to the lateral pelvic wall. From the infrolateral surface to the lateral pelvic wall, this is nothing but lateral ligament. Then a pair of posterior ligament. The posterior true ligament extends. Here you see, this is the neck of the urinary bladder, and here at the margins of the base, of the bladder, the ligaments are extending backwards. Here you can identify. See, these are the pair of posterior true ligaments, and these ligaments are conveying the blood vessels of the urinary bladder here. Along this pole, we can identify the vessels of the urinary bladder. So, how many ligaments? Median umbilical ligament, 4 puboprostatic ligaments, pair of lateral ligaments, and pair of posterior ligaments. So these are the true ligaments because they are the condensed part of the pelvic fascia. Whereas false ligaments are derived from the peritoneal folds. So here question is why the peritoneum is folded? Because of the underlying important structure. Each and every fold contains an important structure beneath it. So what are those folds? Median umbilical fold and 2 lateral umbilical folds. Then lateral false ligaments then posterior false ligament. So here the median umbilical ligament, it is because of the median umbilical fold, it covering the ligament beneath that. What is that ligament? Median umbilical ligament. Then immediately either side two lateral umbilical folds which are containing the obliterated part of umbilical arteries. Obliterated part of the umbilical artery, because the proximal part is represented by the superior vesical artery. The distal part is obliterated immediately after birth. So what is that? The obliterated part represents the median umbilical ligament. Okay. So we have how many false folds in a median umbilical fold, then two lateral umbilical folds. Then lateral false ligaments, it is raised by this lateral true ligament. So over this lateral true ligament, the peritoneum extends. So where it is folded, so that fold is known as lateral false ligament. Similarly, along the posterior true ligament, the peritoneum again folded. So that folding is known as posterior false ligament. Now, interior of, if you see the interior of the urinary bladder, see almost the interior is irregular because corrugated. You see, because of these foldings, the mucosa is folded. In contracted bladder, you can see more number of mucosal folds which are known as rugae, except the area which is triangular in shape. So that triangular area is known as internal trigone or simply trigone of the bladder. So what is the trigone? It is smooth and glistening. Why? Because over this area, the mucosa is directly adherent to the underlying muscle without any intervention of the connective tissue. So there is no any connective tissue between the mucosa and the muscle core. But the rest of the urinary bladder, you can identify what is the structure of the urinary bladder. The innermost is mucosa, then submucosa, then muscle core, then serosa. But over this triangular area, the mucosa is directly adherent to the underlying muscle tissue. So there is no any intervening connective tissue. Okay, submucosa is absent here. So this is very smooth, and here it represents the continuation of the muscle from the ureter. So that is known as trigonal muscle of the belt. So what is this? The muscle layer is present here. What is that? Continuity of the outer longitudinal muscle. That inner longitudinal muscle of the ureter. Sorry. So what is that? It's the continuation of the ureteric muscle. Okay, into this trigone. So which is known as trigonal muscle of the urinary bladder, otherwise called muscle of Bell. Okay, so the muscle of Bell is separated from that of urinary bladder muscle, that is detrusor muscle. So in between there is a thin layer of sheet of fascia is known as. Fascia is there. That is a Waldeus fascia. What is the fascia? Waldeus fascia. Here you identify what are the boundaries of the internal trigone. See, the internal trigone is triangular in shape. It presents two lateral angles. Each lateral angle is representing the opening of ureter. Opening of the ureter. Here you identify ureteric opening. Okay, and at the apex of the trigone, it is represented by urethral opening, where the urethra begins, means at the neck of the urinary bladder. So this is a triangular area. In between two ureteric orifices, interureteric ridge. Interureteric ridge. So the mucosa is raised along this ridge, where we can identify continuity of the ureteric muscle in between the two ureteric openings. Okay, which is known as Mercius bar. Interureteric ridge is also known as Mercius bar. So this is a triangular area. And what is the developmental importance? So this particular area is developed from the mesoderm. This is the area where is developed from the mesoderm. Okay, and rest of the area is developed from endoderm. This is a structure. So what is the structure? It is made up of 4 layers. Mucosa innermost, then submucosa, little amount of submucosa, then muscle core. It is ill-defined because it is not well-defined layers, but you can identify the 3 layers of the muscle. Innermost longitudinal, middle circular and outer longitudinal. Then outermost layer is the serosa. Okay. Then coming to the mucosa. Mucosa means the lining epithelium and underlying connective tissue lamina propria. So here if we identify the lining epithelium, what is the importance, peculiarity of this lining epithelium of the urinary bladder? It is also known as urothelium. And the other name given to this epithelium is transitional epithelium. So why the name given transitional epithelium? Because this is the only epithelium can change its shape during the distension of the bladder. Okay, so urothelium can change its shape according to the distension. So it varies the size of the epithelium. Okay, so in case of distension, the size is decreased but not layers. Okay, layers of these cells are constant because from below upwards, what are the layers? The deepest layer is the columnar cells. Then the other 2 or 3 layers are polyhedral cells, and the more and more superficial cells are polyhedral with a bulged upper surface. So similarly, umbrella shaped. So the most superficial cells are umbrella shaped cells. In such a way they are arranged on the surface of the epithelium. In distension, there is no damage at all. Okay, so without this damage to this epithelium, mucosa, the urinary bladder can expand. So the internal structure is in such a way the cytoplasmic filaments are arranged on the top of the each and every surface cell. So that arrangement is important for the prevention of the separation of the individual epithelial cells during the distension. So without any damage, it can expand and increase the size of the mucosa thickness, but not layers of the cells. Okay, so that is a transitional epithelium. Then what is the blood supply? It is mainly supplied by the superior vesical artery. So what is superior vesical artery? These are proximal part of the umbilical artery, and the rest distal part is obliterated in the form of ligament, medial umbilical ligament. Then lower part of the urinary bladder, including neck and prostate gland, supplied by the inferior vesical artery. In case of females, this inferior vesical artery is replaced by vaginal artery. Okay, then so in the male, venous plexus around the bladder and prostate drain into inferior vesical vein, then partly drains into the superior vesical vein. Then both veins drains into the internal iliac vein. In females, the venous plexus around the bladder drain into vaginal or uterovaginal vein, then into the internal iliac vein. So finally drains into the internal iliac vein. Then nerve supply. So the nerve supply is derived from the plexus of the nerves, which are pelvic plexus. So containing both sympathetic and parasympathetic. So the parasympathetic fibers are derived from the S2, S3, S4. So they are supplying the detrusor muscle, inhibitory to the sphincter vesicle. Whereas sympathetic nerves, they are inhibitory to the detrusor muscle. Then voluntary motor control of the external sphincter is by the pudendal nerves. Okay, so internal sphincter urethra is the involuntary. The bladder develops mainly from the vesical part of urogenital sinus. As you know, which part of the urogenital sinus? Pelvic part. And trigone is derived from the caudal ends of the mesonephric ducts. That's why you see it differs from the rest of the urinary bladder. The entire epithelium is derived from the endoderm of vesical part. Except that part, trigone is derived from the mesoderm. Okay. So other layers of its wall develop from the adjacent splanchnic mesenchyme. Rest entire bladder is derived from the splanchnic mesenchyme. Then coming to the prostate gland. So prostate gland, what is the location? Exactly, it lies below the urinary bladder. Means the neck of the urinary bladder is surrounded by this prostate gland. And what are the measurements of the prostate gland? Transversely, it is about 4 centimeters. Vertically, 3. Anteroposteriorly, 2 centimeters. Okay. And the important relations, you see the anterior surface of the prostate lies just behind the lower part of the pubic symphysis. And below it is limited by urogenital diaphragm. So above it is by the means limited by the urinary bladder, below by the urogenital diaphragm. In front, lower part of the pubic symphysis, and behind the rectal ampulla, and either side by the retropubic space. That is the space of Retzius. Then what are the coverings of this prostate gland? See, the entire prostate gland is covered by the true capsule. The true capsule is derived from the condensation of its own fibrous stroma. Then outside, there is a false capsule which is derived from the visceral layer of the pelvic fascia. So after covering this prostate gland, it extends onto the pelvic wall as a parietal layer, whereas it represents the around the viscera as a visceral layer. So the prostate gland is surrounded by two capsules, inner true capsule, outer false capsule. So false capsule is a condensation of the visceral layer of the pelvic fascia, whereas inner true ligament is a condensation of its own fibrous stroma. In between these two capsules, we can find out the venous plexus, prostatic venous plexus. So what are the parts of this prostate gland? So the parts as per the shape, which is a bud shape, so it presents an apex and base. So base is wide, lies above, apex is narrow, lies below, and it is related to the urogenital diaphragm. So here the urethra pierces this urogenital diaphragm and enters into the extends as a membranous urethra. So what are the important structures which are related to the prostate gland? So coming to the surfaces. So what are the surfaces? See, this is a posterior surface and this is anterior surface and two lateral surfaces. Two lateral surfaces. What are the lobes of the prostate gland? If you take a suction, you can identify the lobes of the prostate gland. All together you see one anterior lobe, then medial lobe, two lateral lobes and posterior lobe. Actually this posterior, anatomically we have only 3 lobes, but physiologically it is divided into 5 lobes. So because here the posterior lobe is a continuation of the 2 lateral lobes. This is a posterior lobe, actually it continues. So a continuation, lateral lobe, posterior lobe and lateral lobe. So this represents the posterior lobe of the prostate gland. So what is the anterior lobe? The portion of the gland just lies in front of the prostatic urethra. See, this is the urethra. In front of that, this is the anterior. Here, what is the importance? It is made up of fibromuscular tissue. Only few mucus secreting glands. So the prostatic glands are not present. Here only mucus secreting glands are there. And what is the predominant tissue present here? Fibromuscular stroma. So this is lies just in front of the prostatic urethra, which is known as anterior lobe. Then what is the median lobe? See, if you divide the posterior surface, see, posterior surface, a transverse sulcus divides the posterior surface into upper smaller and lower larger areas. So this upper larger area and behind the urethra represents this median lobe of the prostate gland. Okay. See, this is a here median lobe above the transverse ridge. So that transverse ridge receives the 3 openings here, where we can see the piercing of the duct, ampullary duct. Means what is that? duct of the seminal vesicle, and vas deferens fuse to form in joints to form the ampullary duct, that is the ejaculatory duct. So ejaculatory duct pierces the prostate gland and opens into the urethra. So these ejaculatory ducts divides the posterior surface. It means where the entrance of the ejaculatory ducts divides the posterior surface into upper part, lower parts. So that upper part means above the ejaculatory duct openings and posterior to the urethra represents the median lobe. So this median lobe usually enlarges in the old age. So due to enlargement of the other part, so median lobe, if it is enlarged, what happens? It may obstruct the urethra. So it leads to strain in micturition. Very painful and strain in micturition. Then lateral lobes. So what are the lateral lobes? Either side of the urethra surrounds the entire posterior aspect and below this ejaculatory ducts opening. So that represents the lateral lobes. And the posterior lobe means this is the most median part of the posterior gland. That represents the posterior lobe. Actually, there is no posterior lobe. These lateral lobes only continues with each other. Okay, so together these three structures known as the lateral lobes. Then what are the zones of the prostate? So here the zones are divided into periurethral zone, transition zone, central zone, peripheral zone, and as you know the anterior fibromuscular zone. So here this is a only mucus type of glands are there, not prostatic glands are absent here. So what is this anterior most part? Fibromuscular zone. Then transition zone. So where it is just surrounding the pre-prostatic part. So the part of the prostate gland surrounds the urethra. Whereas the central zone representing the part of prostate surrounds the entrance of the ejaculatory ducts. That is the central zone. And the rest posterolateral aspect is represented by the peripheral zone. This is the rest peripheral zone. So it is prone to carcinoma. This peripheral zone. This is the area. What are the structures traversing the prostate? So the prostate is traversed by urethra. So at the leg of the bladder, the urinary bladder is continues down as a urethra and passing through the prostate gland. So where it pierces the prostate gland, exactly at the junction between the anterior 1/3 and posterior 2/3 of the prostate in the median plane. Then a pair of ejaculatory duct traversing the posterior part of the prostate gland. Then prostatic utricle. See in the midline, this is a projection. So what is that structure? Prostatic utricle. Here we'll see in the interior. If you take the interior of this urethra, prostatic urethra, on the posterior wall, you can identify in the midline longitudinal crest, which is known as urethral crest. Mucosa is elevated. So what is this? Urethral crest. And in the middle of the urethral crest, we can see a rounded elevation, which is known as seminal colliculus. This is the seminal colliculus. And this seminal colliculus receives three openings. If you identify three, so in the midline, it is a surface invagination. So from anterior view, what is this surface invagination? In the form of a cul-de-sac, which is known as utricle, prostatic utricle. And this, see, this is a prostatic utricle. Then on either side, we can identify along the margins of the seminal colliculus the two small openings which are known as ejaculatory duct openings. You see, this is the ejaculatory duct opening. And on either side of seminal colliculus, there is a depression which is known as prostatic sinus. So into this sinus, we can see all the prostatic glands opening. Small ducts there which are known representing the openings of the prostatic glands. What is the supply? Blood supply of the prostate gland. So it is derived from the interiliac artery, mostly by the inferior vesical artery. Supplies the lower part, including neck of the urinary bladder, supplies the prostatic gland. Then other branches are middle rectal and internal pudendal artery. The veins drains into the prostatic plexus and thereby finally drains into internal iliac vein. Now supply same from pelvic plexus. They are from S2, S3, S4. These are the now supplying the prostate gland. And this is structure of the prostate. See what type of organ it is. Fibromusculoglandular organ. And the fibrous stroma, it is derived from, you see, this is the fibrous stroma. Most of the gland is occupied by the fibrous stroma, and see the glands. These are the prostatic glands. And the individual cells, see, lining alveoli varies from the cuboidal to columnar, depending on this activity, secretion of activity. And see BPH. So, if you compare this normal prostate with the enlarged prostate, so it leads to obstruction of the urethra. That is the prostatic urethra. See, these are the lateral lobes are enlarged. Then it obstructs the prostatic urethra. So this is about the urinary bladder and prostate. This is only for revision. So what are the topics you have to read? Blood supply, nerve supply, and clinical importance. They will ask under these subheadings. So what are the first relations presenting parts? Then blood supply, nerve supply, then development. So under these headings, you can write essay questions about the urinary bladder and prostate. Okay, thank you.